It's March 4. In the headlines, Energy Minister addresses fuel supply. New bail act to be tabled in Parliament. A Bahamian hotelier wants removal of mask mandate. And in sports, the competition is on at ISSA's Corporate Area Track and Field Champs. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom Gale. The island's fuel arrangements are in good standing despite the instability in Eastern Europe. That's the word from Minister of Science, Energy and Technology, Darrell Vaz. He addressed the concern while providing an update on energy security and oil prices during Thursday's meeting of the Standing Finance Committee of the House of Representatives.
I am to report not only to members here but to the wider public and Jamaica at large that Jamaica has 3 to 4 weeks reserve supply of finished product and 6 weeks of crude. This situation is being actively monitored and our supply chain is not in jeopardy. We have both storage locally here and we have storage offshore. And therefore, with those two sources, for an island as we are well secure in terms of our fuel arrangements. What we are not and cannot predict, obviously, is prices. But based on the contracts that we have, supply is there. And based on funds available to purchase, which is going to also be a critical aspect, we do have that as a country.
Minister Vaz says Jamaica currently sources both crude oil and finished product from Colombia, Ecuador, Brazil, and Barbados.
In the case of Barbados, we do about 60,000 barrels every 2 months. All of these, Madam Chair, are based on contracts, fixed contracts, some yearly and some shorter. And truth be told, that whereas there is a great concern in what's happening in Eastern Europe, the fact that there may be some dislocation in relation to that supply from Russia, obviously it's an opportunity for other persons to ramp up to be able to make and meet that shortfall.
The minister is urging Jamaicans to practice energy conservation.
We have always talked about conservation, but we really have not practiced it. And maybe this unfortunate situation really is the wake-up call for each and every one of us to take that responsibility in our own hands to be able to conserve and use less fuel.
According to Minister Vaz, crude oil supply arrangement with Nigeria is in its final stages. He notes that the agreement will cover crude oil supply, oil and gas exploration, and technical support in optimizing local refinery operations and liquefied natural gas. Education Minister Favour Williams is reporting that 40,000 students have been re-engaged after being detached from the education system as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. The ministry had reported that 120,000 children had not attended class since the start of the pandemic, when schools were forced to close.
In terms of our National Parent Support Commission, we go in full blast to get to some 97,000 parents in order to connect them with programs to help them in their engagement with their children. For young people, we continue to engage our young people, age 15 to 29 years, with a variety of activities. Higher education and training has a budget of $20.6 billion. Our efforts are focused on delivering a higher education policy.
About 70% of the students who have been re-engaged have already done diagnostic tests.
Our math and literacy coaches will work with underperforming schools. Student coaching, co-teaching, co-planning, parent sessions, math literacy camps, etc. will happen. There will be capacity building as well for teachers. Our Yard to Yard Find the Child initiative has a budget of $103 million and is underway. of the approximately 120,000 students who were not connected virtually or otherwise to schools, we have already been able to locate and re-engage approximately 40,000.
Mrs. Williams says $250 million has been set aside for a remedial program. She was speaking at a meeting of Parliament's Standing Finance Committee this week. A new Bail Act is to be brought to the Houses of Parliament soon. That news was shared by Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, Marlene Malahou-Fort, during the sitting of the Standing Finance Committee on Thursday. During his throne speech in February, Governor-General, His Excellency the Most Honorable Sir Patrick Allen, said new provisions will be enacted in relation to the grant or denial of bail and related matters. Mrs. Malahou-Fort says one of the major deliveries from the new ministry so far is the firearms bill, which is now before the Joint Select Committee for further deliberation.
A new bail law is far advanced and should be coming before the Parliament within another month or so. We have the constitutional reform issue, and I would say please await an update through the other parliamentary process for that. But yes, security matters, aside of the fiscal matters, and I know that the Companies Act is one of the priority areas, not only from a corporate perspective, but also from the anti-money laundering and countering of terrorism financing, and that will be coming in very short order.
The Occupational Safety and Health Act should be enacted this year. Minister of Labour and Social Security, Carl Samuda, says he is in talks with Marlene Malahou-Fort, the Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs. The legislation aims to protect workers and other persons from harm through the elimination or minimization of hazards, serious injury, or risks arising out of or in connection with activities at workplaces. Mr. Samuda notes that focus will be placed on amending the Employment Agencies Regulation Act to give effect to the International Labour Conference Maritime Labour Convention 2006. He says the ministry will also seek to amend the National Minimum Wage Act. The Princess Margaret Hospital in St. Thomas is celebrating 67 years of existence. It is the only hospital in the parish of St. Thomas located on the main highway from Morant Bay to License. Our news team visited the institution recently.
The Princess Margaret Hospital in St. Thomas was officially opened and named by Her Royal Highness Princess Margaret on February 23, 1955. Replacing the Morant Bay Hospital, which was badly damaged by Hurricane Charlie on August 17, 1951. The Type C facility serves a population of approximately 120,000 patients from the parishes of St. Thomas, Eastern Portland, and St. Andrew. Ms. Linton and her senior staff says the COVID-19 pandemic has taught the team the value of every member of staff, from the administrators, medical officers to the ground staff and the cook.
Time now for a look at the daily market updates in this extended edition of the Business Report with Danita Rodney.
In foreign exchange trading for Thursday, March 3, the US dollar sold for an average of $155.33. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $123.14. The pound sterling traded for $206.19, and the euro sold for an average of $172.41. In Thursday's trading session, the following reflected the movement of the JSE indices. The JSE index declined by 2,805 points to close at over 380,000 units. The junior market index advanced by 49 points to close at over 4,000 units. The combined market index declined by 2,192 points to close at over 400,000 units. and the All Jamaican Composite Index saw a heavy decline of 3,622 points to close at over 440,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 107 stocks, of which 43 advanced, 54 declined, and 10 traded firm. 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, and Barita Investments Limited saw an advancement in their stocks, while 138 Student Living Jamaica Variable Preference, 1834 Investments Limited, and Access Financial Services Limited saw a decline, and Caribbean Cream Limited, Siboney Group Limited, and Epley Limited traded firm. Carriers Limited was the volume leader with over 62 million units, followed by Future Energy Source Company Limited ordinary shares with over 3 million units, and Derrimon Trading Company Limited with over 2 million units. In market data for oil prices rose above $112 a barrel on Friday in a volatile session, as fears over disruption to Russian oil exports in the face of Western sanctions offset the prospect of more Iranian supplies in the event of a nuclear deal with Tehran. Brent crude rose as high as $114.23 a barrel and was up $1.97 or 1.8% at $112.43. West Texas Intermediate crude added $2.21 or 2.1% to $109.88 after touching a high of $112.84.
Have you ever wondered if the money in your bank account is secure? The Jamaica Deposit Insurance Corporation, JDIC, offers protection or coverage against your money through deposit-taking institutions that are regulated and supervised by the Bank of Jamaica through 5 account ownership categories: individual, joint, trust, business, and nominee accounts. Welcome to Finance Matters. I'm Daniel Pasley. And today I'll be speaking with Ms. Pbcj Coombs, Public Relations Officer of the Jamaica Deposit Insurance Corporation, about the deposit insurance coverage that you have access to by just having a bank account. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow the Ministry of Finance on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to see all the episodes and highlights. Thank you, Ms. Coombs, for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me, Daniel.
Now, what is the role of the Jamaica Deposit Insurance Corporation?
Well, Daniel, the Jamaica Deposit Insurance Corporation, JDIC for short, was established in 1998 following the financial crisis of the mid-1990s. Now, the purpose of the corporation is to provide what is called deposit insurance. And what deposit insurance does is ensure that any monies that you have in deposit accounts in commercial banks, billing societies, and merchant banks, you are guaranteed to get those monies back. However, up to a maximum of $1.2 million
$1.2 million.
Your financial institution should crash or fail. Another key role of the JDIC is to manage what is called the Deposit Insurance Fund. And essentially what the Deposit Insurance Fund is the vehicle which the corporation keeps the premiums that are paid by the member institutions of the deposit insurance scheme, so that you will be able to get your money back if anything happens to your financial institution.
And when we speak about the member institutions, who are we talking about really?
Okay, so member institutions of the deposit insurance schemes are essentially financial institutions that are licensed and regulated by the Bank of Jamaica and hence mandated to become members of the deposit insurance scheme. And these are commercial banks, and that is every single commercial bank that is licensed for operation in Jamaica, as well as billing societies and the single merchant bank that we have still in existence, making that a total of 11 member institutions of the deposit insurance scheme.
Now, what was the rationale for increasing the limit to $1.2 million?
Okay, that's an excellent question, Daniel. So in August of last year, the JDIC increased the deposit insurance limit twofold from $600,000 to $1.2 million. And that last increase was implemented in 2006. Now, another role of the corporation is to monitor what is called the credibility of the coverage limit. Because as you're aware, from time to time, things change in the financial sector as well as the economy and of course overseas. So the corporation has to monitor all these variables to ensure that the coverage limit remains credible and that the value of the monies that depositors have in their accounts is maintained. So we keep track of things such as the foreign exchange rate, the inflation rate, to ensure that the value of your money is maintained. And that is what we do when we say we protect and guarantee your deposits.
So basically, the JDIC is following international standards then?
Certainly, and these international standards are set by the International Deposit Insurance Body that is called IADI, which is the International Deposit Insurance Association, and the JDIC is also a founding member of that association.
How can we find out some more information about JDIC?
Well, Daniel, the JDIC keeps up with the times, and you can definitely keep up with us and the information that we're putting out so that every single Jamaican can understand what the JDIC does and how deposit insurance benefits you by following us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at JDIC Jam, that's JDIC JAM, and of course on YouTube at Jamaica Deposit.
And that does it for the extended edition of the Business Report Inside the News on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In news from across the region, we begin in Guyana, where the presence of the Omicron COVID-19 variant has been officially confirmed. The country's health minister, Dr. Frank Anthony, revealed that 19 of 20 samples sent to Trinidad and Tobago tested positive for the variant. More details from Newsroom Guyana.
So we sent 20 samples to CARFA about a week ago, and as we have been pointing out in the media, we expected that these samples, most of the cases would be Omicron. So of the 20 samples that we have sent, 19 came back positive for Omicron. One was indeterminate because the sample itself, apparently they did not have enough genetic material in the sample to be able to sequence it. So outside of that, all 19 of the 20 came back positive for Omicron. So I think people still need to take the precautions and make sure that they're getting vaccinated. And if they've gotten their 2 primary doses, to make sure they come back and get their booster doses. So that's very important. In terms of vaccination, for adults, first dose, we've had 432,821 first dose. That's about 84.4% of our adult population. Second dose, we have 328,954 doses. That's about 64.1% of the adult population. The adolescents, 12 to 17 age group, we have 33,602 persons receiving a first dose. That's about 46.1% of that population. And second dose, we are 24,293, or 33.3% of that population. In terms of booster doses, we are now at 51,125 doses. And again, we want to encourage people to come out and get their booster doses.
In Trinidad and Tobago, the 5-member panel tasked with getting to the bottom of the LMCS Paria fuel trading company incident, which left 4 divers dead, has been named. Minister of Energy and Energy Industries Stuart Young made the announcement at Thursday's post-cabinet media briefing. Karen Kozia-Phillip reports.
Energy Minister Stuart Young says the 5-member panel, which is completely independent, will have 45 days to complete their investigation and report back to the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries.
The chairman will be Mr. Shiv Sharma, an attorney at law of about 18 years in practice. He will chair the committee. The next professional will be Mr. Gregory Wilson, who has over 25 years in the oil and gas industry and is a professional subsea specialist. And he spent a great part of his career there also doing diving in oil and gas facilities, deepwater diving in oil and gas facilities.
2 representatives from oil giants BP and Shell and energy expert Eugene Tia will round out the panel. Minister Young says the panel will be asked to examine 11 areas during their investigation. This includes looking at the scope of works by Paria for the job and whether Paria and LMCS employed sufficient safety measures to ensure the safety of its contracted employees, property, and the prevention of the incident.
To identify the precise facts and circumstances which led up to and resulted in the loss of life, and whether this was reasonable and justifiable in the particular circumstances. 5, to examine all of the decisions and actions taken after it became clear that the 5 LMCS divers went missing.
The Oil Fields Workers Trade Union, the United National Congress, and members of the public have been calling for the resignation of the executive management at Paria in the wake of the tragic incident. However, the energy minister prefers to wait and see what the investigation unearths.
I haven't received any resignations, nor am I at this stage calling for any resignations. I think that would be premature. And really, this panel of experts is going to go in there and look at the various roles played, and we take it from there.
On February 25th, Christopher Boudram, Faisal Kurban, Rishi Nagasa, Yusuf Henry, and Kazem Ali Jr. were trapped in a 30-inch pipeline offshore in Pointe-à-Pierre. Boudram was the only man to make it out alive. Karen Cozier-Phillip, TTT News.
In the Bahamas, after a resort lobbied for government to remove the mask mandate for its fully vaccinated guests, Acting Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism Chester Cooper says the government is weighing the possibility and a final recommendation will be before Cabinet in the next week. Bethany McDermott tells us more.
Following a call by a top hotel exec to remove the mask mandate for vaccinated visitors, Acting Prime Minister Chester Cooper said it's being looked into. Speaking to a recent Bahamas Hotel and Tourism Association annual general meeting, Bahama President Graham Davis said the resort has seen some pushback from U.S. guests.
We're still seeing pushback of guests from our major markets in the United States on the mask mandates, particularly for vaccinated guests, as we now are experiencing over 90% of our guests are fully vaccinated. That mask mandate removal for hotel guests that are vaccinated would be a tremendous step forward.
Meanwhile, Cooper said a recommendation in this regard is expected next week.
There is a lobby to remove the wearing of masks. It's something that my colleagues from the Ministry of Health and Wellness are looking into. They are looking at the science and the recommendations of the CDC and the WHO, etc., and they will be making a recommendation next week to Cabinet.
Cooper added the decision lies solely in the hands of the health professionals. His comments come one day after he announced government will end the 5-day COVID-19 test requirement for visitors entering the country. Cooper reiterated the desire to strike the right balance, adding that the Davis administration is focused on relaxing restrictions. Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell, who was in Belize attending the 33rd CARICOM Heads of Government meeting, revealed that Caribbean leaders are being urged to scrap travel restrictions completely. Mitchell said he is unsure which way the decision will go, but noted that Jamaica has already scrapped all of its travel restrictions except a requirement for a test 72 hours before travel.
In sports, 17 finals will be contested on Friday's opening day of the 2-day ISA Corporate Era Track and Field Championships at the National Stadium. The finals are down to be contested on Friday. They are the girls' Class 1 discus, Class 1 high jump, Class 4 long jump, the 1500 meters for classes 1, 2, and 3, Class 2 high jump, Class 2 long jump, Class 2 discus, Class 3 discus, and Class 4 high jump. On the boys' side are the 1500 meters for all classes, Class 1 discus, Class 3 long jump, and Class 2 discus. The meet started at 9 a.m. and spectators can purchase tickets at the gate but must be fully vaccinated and provide their vaccination cards along with a government-issued identification card. Justin Burrowes is celebrating his recent victory at the Caymanas Golf Classic. The Jamaica Golf Association began the new season with an approved twist to its first event of the year. Golfers who play in JGA events of 54 holes and over received ranking points from the Royal and Ancient Golf Club, United States Golf Association, which allowed them to play in international events which are open to ranked golfers. The JGA got permission to play 54 holes over the normal 3 days or 2 days where the golfers played 27 holes each day. Justin Burrowes battled 15 other golfers, including 3 pros, over the 54 holes to win the men and men senior 0 to 6 category by 11 strokes after posting 7 under par 209. He scored 3 over par 75 for round 1 and 5 under par 67 for round 2 and 3, respectively. Before we end this edition of the news, the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport staged the annual Reggae Month celebrations in February, and the PBCJ brought all the fun live on our station and social media platforms. Our Carla Thomas Hewitt gives us some highlights from the celebrations.
This year marks the 14th staging of the annual Reggae Month celebrations, observed every February. Reggae Month highlights and celebrates the positive footprints that the musical genre has made in the social, cultural, and economic development of Jamaica. On the last day of Reggae Month, Honorable Olivia Babsy Grange announced that after her proposal to the European Union and to UNESCO for technical support, it has been established that there will be a first draft of an Entertainment, Cultural, and Creative Economic Act. She says the draft should be ready by June 2022.
In this, our 60th year of independence, Jamaica will therefore establish a legal framework within which protection mechanisms will be in place for entertainment, cultural, and creative sectors.
Reggae music has inspired many persons all over the world with its therapeutic and authentic rhythm and lyrics.
Good vibration, yeah. That's the positive vibes and we creating, yeah. Sounds that make you feel right, we keep it blazing, yeah.
As a tribute to the late Jamaican bass guitarist and record producer Robbie Shakespeare, a memorial service was held where his family and friends sang and shared hearty memories to celebrate the life of the reggae icon.
There'll never be another, nowhere near like Robbie Shakespeare. I miss him. I had the opportunity of seeing him in his last day. I'm go by the house with Kat. And I had words with him and kind of sit down with him and rest well, my brethren. Rest well.
The celebration of Reggae Month was streamed every day of the month of February, which featured live performances, panel discussions, and other segments that highlighted the beauty and purpose of the music.
Reaching out to be free, I'm moving on.
Baby, when the bright light starts to fade, fire up your lighter.
Don't try to work your soul away. No, no, no. Remember, there's another day. Tears are my pillow. Pain, pain. You are my friend.
Hope light arise.
For PBCJ News, I'm Carla Thomas Hewitt.
See, I'm hurt
hurting but not broken.
And that's the news on PBCJ. Thank you so much for watching.